Hi everyone, I'm Greg from the eSpot, and I'm normally more of a behind the scenes person here at the channel, but I have decided to step into the light and show off some work I designed quite a long time ago, but was finally able to get printed. It is a collection of 10 posters that I designed in a historical fashion, each poster representing a different decade of Eurovision slash poster design history. It all started when I wanted to decorate my new apartment with Eurovision posters, and while I could find designs from the contemporary Eurovisions, it was really hard to find anything from the very old contest, especially the beginning of the contest. So the next best thing I could do was take matters into my own hands and design some Eurovision posters of my own. This took me down quite the rabbit hole, and I had to look into not just Eurovision history, but poster design history, event design history, all sorts of different kinds of histories that led to how I and led to and informed how I designed each of these posters. So in this video, I'm actually going to take you through the first 5 of those posters, and then in subsequent videos, I'll go through the rest and some more designs that I have come up with for this year's Eurovision. So stay tuned and please bear with me as I figure out my pace and my timing with all of these videos. The 1950s. So post-war design was all about being sensational, large text, loud primary colors, and probably my favorite part was collaged, grainy, newsprinted images of people's faces. And in order to make this poster the most 1950s I could, I made sure that all of the fonts were from that time period, and I researched the logos of that era for each broadcaster to make sure that it really matched the time period. Of course, since I did this for the 1950s, I would have to do it for every single one. The 1960s brought a lot of new design technology into the art world, and this expanded what artists could do with forms and shapes and letters. This was a time of psychedelia and Andy Warhol, and for this poster I took a lot of design inspiration from a lot of the event posters of the time. I did a simple 3-color print and created a weird abstract frame based on the shape of the televisions of the time period, and then just basically fit the text in where I could. The 1970s, things kind of got a little bit more toned down. It was the era of the Vietnam War. Things were getting a little bit more tense with the Cold War, and there were a lot more oranges and yellows and browns in the color palette of the time, but things were still on the edge of the hippie movement and, of course, Woodstock. And so I had to borrow a lot from the framing techniques of the time. And I also incorporated the artwork of John Bauer. He was a Swedish artist, and he was prominently featured in the 1974 contest. The 1980s was a lot of fun because this was when Xerox really took off and things were a lot more mainstream for the regular person to create graphic design. And this started to get kind of wild as the regular person could really start to borrow things from everywhere and create collages that could then be replicated and distributed all throughout the cities. So for this poster, I really took my inspiration from those Xerox posters and really just lent into what I also would have made in the early 80s, late. late late 80s, early 90s. So for the 1990 poster, this is kind of a special one because I wanted to celebrate the Zagreb concert, since it was the only one that took place in a country that could technically be called an Iron Curtain country. So I also went with the Xerox look, but this time added some color to it, because sometimes you could get colored Xeroxes. And and if you can't tell, I'm actually wearing a t-shirt from the 1990 concert that I actually had printed just for my trip to Liverpool next week. And if you want to see more of the designs that I've made, stay tuned for the next video where I'll be going over the next 5 posters. And I'll also be showing off a bit of designs that I created for going to Liverpool. And alright, that's my first video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked this look into design history and Eurovision history. And again, stay tuned. We have a lot more coming up, especially with Eurovision next week. Like us on all of our socials, like and subscribe this video, and do powodzenia.